Hello, new signets. Mr. Macnaughton here, Deputy Head Teacher at the Swan School. I'm really excited to speak to you today about our knowledge-rich curriculum and what that means for you and your learning for next year when you join us as our brand new Year 7 signets. You have to apologise. I have to apologise for my casual clothes. I'm in school today and doing PE and various outdoor activities. You'll see all the coat pegs behind me. I'm at our temporary site working with our current Year 7 signets, who will be your Year 8 swans, who will be your role models for next year. And we're having a great time. But I wanted to talk to you a bit about our curriculum and what that means our lessons will look like. So I wanted to structure that around a few key questions. So the first question I wanted to answer is, what does a knowledge-rich curriculum mean? So a knowledge-rich curriculum is not just a whole set of facts like a quiz that you need to learn. It means that we know that to do really, really interesting things in school, to write essays, to compare things, to evaluate, to explore, to investigate, to do all those things in science, in history, in maths, in English, you need to first of all know lots of things about those topics. The foundation which this is all built on is knowing, understanding. So before you can do an experiment, you need to know stuff about the chemical elements you're going to use. Before you can write an essay in history, you need to know something about that period of history you're studying. And so at the Swan, we prioritise giving you that knowledge to make sure that you are prepared and you are confident and you are ready to have a go at those tasks, rather than kind of making it up and often not coming up with the best piece of work you could. So why do we have that knowledge-rich curriculum? Well, the evidence tells us that the best way to learn, and if you take learning to mean a change in your long-term memory, so you keep it and you learn it forever, is to start with that knowledge, make that a central part of your learning process, and then once the knowledge is secure, then to practice applying it and doing those more interesting tasks that you're used to doing as well at primary, like writing extended pieces of work and doing investigations and experiments, etc. So what will this look like in lessons? So this means we will have a prioritisation on retrieval practice. So every lesson will start with retrieval. You'll start by retrieving facts that you've learned before, or retrieving, short processes in maths, so answering questions on what you've learned before. And that will build up over time, and it'll be randomised, and it will mean that you'll acquire that knowledge and you'll remember it all the time. It means your teachers will be really, really clear about explaining things to you, and that will be their priority as teachers, is to explain things really, really well. It means you'll be expected to listen really carefully to those explanations, and that's really important, that you listen and that you take responsibility for taking on that knowledge. It means there'll be lots of practice, so you'll be practicing that knowledge and getting it into your brain, and that will be done, either on your own individually, or in a small group, or in a pair. And that does mean that our lessons are very focused and calm and quiet, because often students are really, really practicing applying that knowledge and getting that knowledge in. However, the other thing that's really important about a knowledge-rich curriculum is what you do out of lessons. So we ask students to make sure that key knowledge and make sure it's remembered is the responsibility of students to do outside lessons. So we have 2 supervised study periods a week where we'd expect you to be practicing acquiring that knowledge and reinforcing it and getting it in your brain so that it's really, really secure in there. And the process we use for that is called self-quizzing. So at the start of the term, you'll be issued with a booklet of knowledge organisers, one for each subject, which has all the key knowledge you need to know for each subject on it. And it's the most important stuff presented in the clearest way possible. Now, during supervised studies, you will complete short quizzes on those knowledge organisers. So you'll have to spend some time revising them, and then you'll practice quizzing yourself. Now, we'll provide you with some quizzes, and then you can write your own once you've finished our ones. And each quiz, I would suggest you do a couple of times as well, because that will get the knowledge really, really deeply in there. So that means that a lot of your homework won't be things that, it won't be a big project, or it won't be a big essay, or it won't be lots of questions. It's most of our homework at the Swan is around getting that knowledge in and self-quizzing and making sure it's really, really reinforced in your brain. The other things we do for homework is, of course, we ask you to read. We want you to read because we think reading and literacy is absolutely crucial to everything you're going to do in your whole life, and especially at school. And you may do some practice maths questions. We use a program called Manga High to do that. So homework is predominantly the self-quizzing, but also the reading and the practice maths questions. So the knowledge-rich curriculum really affects, what you do in lessons, but it also affects what you do at home for home learning. Now, I've set you a little task to do for this week. It is optional, but it'd be really good if you did a bit of practice of self-quizzing at home this week, and you got back to us with kind of any questions you had, and we'll go through this, of course, all again in matriculation week. We'll really practice going through this, how we self-quiz. We'll really explain to you what knowledge looks like in lessons, and we'll, of course, give you those knowledge organiser booklets, which will make this much clearer. Thanks, it was lovely to speak to you today.